Yes, yes, people, you know what time it is. You already know what it is, and we're back with another match reaction. Derby day as Liverpool sort of Everton, their fiercest Merseyside rivals 2-0 at Anfield thanks to a Mo Salah double. Another 12:30 kickoff, obviously. Liverpool don't like those. Us as fans, we don't like them. We don't like them for some reason. But ultimately, we were able to obviously get the victory. Weren't the best of displays. Not vintage Liverpool by any stretch of the imagination. But guess what? Who cares? It's Derby Day. We were able to obviously get that win. And then obviously Liverpool did move top of the table for a brief amount of time, but then obviously slipped back down once the Arsenal and Manchester City games then resumed. So obviously going to take a little dive into it, a little talk about, the game in a general sense, a couple of the talking points, who my man of the match was, and obviously we take a look towards our next game. But guys, make sure you stay tuned, make sure you like, share and subscribe to the channel. Let's get it.
Through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Tables turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
Yes, peeps. Obviously, we're here. We're back in the damn building. As I said, we're here with another match reaction. Just quickly before we take a look at the starting lineup for the game. Again, like I mentioned before in my intro, it wasn't a vintage performance from Liverpool. Do I think obviously we can and should be doing better? Yes, but ultimately, as I mentioned before, 12:30 kickoff, coming back after the international break. Obviously, it is kind of one of those kind of things where you just kind of take it as it is. Ultimately, Everton, in my personal opinion, they're not that good of a team anyway. So when you're looking at it from that kind of perspective of, okay, you're up against an Everton side, you're up against a side who are not really they shouldn't really be testing you that much, and then obviously you're going to be doing most of the damage and stuff like that. Then, the game is going to pan out how it is. We're 9 games into a season, of course. So again, there's not really much, in my personal opinion, no team is really showing me title credentials. I don't know how you can after 9 games, but everyone obviously talks and whatnot, and there's certain things about all of our teams that we look at and think, this could be better, this could be better. And again, it's only 9 games into a season. Do I think, yes, Liverpool should be doing better in terms of style of play, in terms of overall performances? Yes, I do believe so. I've not been personally happy with it, but ultimately Liverpool are getting the victory. So, it is one of those kind of things right now. You just got to be kind of just happy that you're able to get these victories, because who knows, that might start drying up, towards the latter end of the season. But in regards to this game, it was literally one of those, man. Everton were really, really stubborn, in the game. The first goal not coming until the 75th minute. They kept us at bay for that long. They weren't attacking. They weren't really what I would deem to be a threat. But what they were really good at was what is vintage Sean Dyche, which is compact, tough to break down. And I think in the game, again, we scored a penalty and a late goal, once they were obviously down to 10 men and stuff like that. I think what we saw from Liverpool in this game is what's kind of always plagued Liverpool, and it's really not new. It's not something that we're sitting here saying, oh my goodness, what's going on. I think it's always been there for Liverpool, which is Liverpool not really good at breaking down low blocks. Not many teams are, to be fair, but Liverpool, in my opinion, are not one of those teams who break down these low blocks. We really do struggle. Had a lot of possession in the game. I'll show you guys stats in a minute. We had a lot of possession in the game. We kept the ball, we dominated, we did all the boring stuff, all the stuff that you would expect anyway, kind of thing, all the stuff that probably doesn't really even matter. But when it really mattered, I just never felt that we were going to break them down, and that might just be credit to Everton, them being so compact in the game, them being able to just kind of, would I say, nullify what, Liverpool were trying to actively do, within the game and stuff like that. I don't know. I personally don't really know, but ultimately I just felt like the way that Everton were set up, it was always going to frustrate us, in these kind of games. But ultimately, to be able to get those 2 goals, Mohamed Salah, again, like I said, it's literally one of those, we get in, get the victory, get out. That's right now. I guess that's just what it is. Obviously, I would love if we're playing perfect champagne football right now, blah, blah, blah. But I care more about the points, if I'm being 100% honest. There will come a time where it's like, yeah, the points are the points, but I do kind of need to see performances because, ultimately the points won't last forever, kind of thing. So, when are we going to start seeing those performances? But we'll obviously, we'll get to that when the time is kind of right, if I'm being totally honest with you. But yeah, as I mentioned before, 2-0. If I take a look quickly at the lineup that Liverpool started the game with, first lineup after the international break. Let me just get it up for you guys. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Yeah, you guys can see it on your screens. Just scroll up a little bit there. We don't get that Everton lineup too tough. There we go. Yeah, so obviously Ali in goal. No Andrew Robertson, as he is obviously injured, picked up that injury on international duty. And I believe that, a lot of people were talking before the game, and a lot of people were like, maybe we should play, Joe Gomez, maybe we should play Jarrell Kwanzaa, in that position, and, we can form a back 3 and rare. I was like, come on, man, we know Jurgen Klopp. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, we know what he's about. And ultimately he isn't the type of manager, who's going to necessarily play, that kind of system. If I'm being totally honest with you, he's not going to just chop and change like that. Other managers might do that. Arteta's potentially, or, they might even put like a right footer on that left hand side, or Pep Guardiola or Brighton probably play a back 3, because they're just more comfortable doing that. Klopp isn't really like that. He is just going to kind of stick with what he knows, and what he knows is playing with the back 4. And at the end of the day, we've got Tsimikas there. Like I said, a lot of people didn't want to see it. Tsimikas in the game, average. I think the team performance was very average anyway. But yeah, his performance in general, he did some bits okay. Some bits were a little bit shaky defensively, if I'm being totally honest with you. But overall, yeah, he was average. He was average. But yeah, he obviously started out at left back. Trent coming in back at right back. Obviously, Joe Gomez has been playing there a couple of the last few games. But, if you got your best right back available, I guess that's who you're going to, ultimately play. And maybe we might see Joe Gomez in a Europa League game, for example. That might be a shout, actually. That would make quite a lot of sense if Klopp were to, do something like that. Obviously, Konate coming in. We'll talk about Konate in a second. For this game, Konate coming in instead of Matip. That was one of the changes that I questioned a little bit, if I'm being totally honest with you. And to be honest, I was kind of proved right, because, I didn't really think Konate had a good game, so to speak. Again, another average performance. Virgil van Dijk, he was really, really good in terms of his duels and stuff like that within the game. Obviously, captain, so obviously he was always going to play. Then we move into the midfield. Now, the midfield was quite an interesting area. Obviously, you guys can see we have McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai. Again, no Endo. I think now we can all but confirm that this guy is going to probably turn into a hologram. Quite an expensive hologram, if I'm being totally honest with you. But yeah, a hologram nonetheless. He still can't get himself a game. Is that right? I don't really know. What does it say about him? I don't really know. You're going to have to ask Jurgen Klopp. He's the one who opened his mouth and said all of these things about him, only to not really trust him and stuff like that. Will he ever trust him? Maybe later on towards the end of the season, we will obviously see that. Potentially, but at this current moment in time, he does feel that having McAllister in a DM position, someone who's not really that comfortable, in a Liverpool DM position, is a better option. And obviously, Gravenberch making his first start. Gravenberch, who I thought had a decent game as well. Szoboszlai, he's always going to play, yet again, another decent game in there. And then the front 3, again, a lot of you people out there, the Núñez lovers, as always, Núñez got to play. I felt like Jota was the right option to play, up front. Núñez is a cameo type of player. Again, we'll get into that in a second. Diaz, Yeah, I felt like that was probably the right choice. There's no Gakpo, so why not? And then Salah obviously speaks for himself, and you can see kind of Everton's lineup in the way that they were kind of set up in a 4-4-1-1 formation, and Doucouré kind of setting into that midfield to then become a five, when they were defending, and then Calvert-Lewin just kind of up top on his own, and they sometimes they will try to use him as like a get out of jail free card, so to speak, when they were getting pressured a little bit, and they wanted to just get the ball up the pitch, and they were trying to hope that he would maybe the ball would stick with him a bit more. Again, when you're isolated up top, it's going to be difficult, especially when you're coming up against a Liverpool team, who've got Konate and a Virgil, two really, really good defenders back there. It is going to be kind of tricky for you to be able to just continuously try and hold up the ball and, bring others into play. And, you're going to need the team as a whole to be able to, come forward, as a unit more so. But ultimately that didn't really happen, in the game. So he was kind of isolated, and I did feel kind of sorry for him because I was thinking, you guys are trying to use him as a one, and it's just not really, in my opinion, kind of working. I know you got Doucouré in and around there, but when Calvert-Lewin does get those knockdowns, when Calvert-Lewin is there to kind of, help with other bits and bobs, there's no one else to help him. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, he can press all day long, but you're just doing tireless running up against four defenders sometimes, so yeah, it was one of those kind of things. But ultimately that's the team obviously that we went with for the game. So into the game in itself, as I mentioned before, there were just like a couple bits I wanted to talk about. Where should we start first? I think let's start off with a positive. So obviously this man getting his first start, I believe in the Premier League for Liverpool. Ryan Gravenberch obviously signed this summer from Bayern Munich. In the Europa League games that he's played and in the cameos that he's had, he's been very, very good. He's been very good. He's shown quite a lot. He's shown something that maybe we didn't. I mean, I wouldn't say we don't have, because I feel like McAllister can do exactly what he does, and Jones can do what he does, just not really necessarily allowed to do so. But he is showing in that position what he can, offer. The nice little touches, the off the ball work as well. Defensively, and even just little other bits that he's kind of showing in his game, the half turns and things like that. Being able to bring the ball forward. We all know that he's a very good ball carrier anyway. So being able to kind of do that and help the team to get themselves forward, keep a little bit of possession, but also give the team a little bit of a nice break in that midfield area. It seems like Klopp is allowing him to do so, and I hope that continues. By the way, I've spoken about Ryan Gravenberch and allowing him to kind of express himself, within that kind of midfield and not be bogged down by the tactics or anything like that, because then I feel that you won't get the same type of player if you have him doing too much running. He's someone who needs the ball but has to be able to carry the ball forward, and maybe again that's the job that he's being tasked with for Liverpool right now, and I feel like that is the job moving forward, that you should just kind of keep someone like a Gravenberch kind of doing in the game in itself. Let me just take this banner off. Obviously you can see the positions that he was kind of taking up. He was a little bit deeper over, like, during his time on the pitch, he was a little bit deeper than McAllister. Obviously we know McAllister usually to play in that kind of pivot role, but he was a little bit deeper. When you look here, number 38, you can see he's just a bit behind McAllister. He's obviously in that central kind of position. Trent kind of taking up that whole, right side, which will probably explain why a couple of times Dwight McNeil. But yeah, Trent kind of taking up that whole kind of right side. We don't really have, if I'm being honest, looking at this, it's like we don't really have a right central midfielder, which makes it always so weird and funny when you do look at our formation and stuff like that. There's, other than the back two, Salah, no one else looks really that set, if I'm being honest. Everyone kind of just looks like they're kind of here and there, and kind of, yeah, it just does look kind of a little bit all over the gaff, but obviously that is what it is. But yeah, like I said, Ryan Gravenberch, I felt like he was decent in the game. He did start to tire out after a while, if I'm being 100% honest with you, in the game. You could say, fitness and all that. I don't really believe so. I just think that it is just more of those kind of, it's just one of those, maybe the work that he had to put into in the midfield area. Yeah, that just really just tired him out. He wasn't really, prepared to do 60, 70, 80 minutes of that purely for the game. But ultimately, he was in there. Decent game, from him. And I was thoroughly happy, so I was honestly thoroughly happy with his performance. Talking about McAllister, again, in that midfield area. One of his better games, definitely one of his better games. Really good on the ball. Defensively, not so good in my personal opinion. But you know, I could say that for basically every single game that he's played. You know, I don't want to. I don't want to keep doing it unless it's, you know, just always painstakingly obvious. Something quite interesting as well, Virgil van Dijk actually mentioned after the game about McAllister and the position that he is playing, and maybe not actually really wanting to play in that position, but be just doing so. Obviously, the manager's asking him to, and, you know, it's a position that he has actually played in, you know, for Brighton. I found that quite interesting. I found that really interesting because now we know it's not just a fan thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a fan thing. It's not just fans opening their mouths and saying something and, oh, but this, that, and the... No, we can, you know, we can really see that this is a player who, one, for me, just doesn't really look comfortable in that kind of DM position. Whatever you want to call it, DM, sentiment, whatever it is, single pivot, double pivot, whatever. Whatever you want to call it, he's just not comfortable in it in a Liverpool shirt. That's all we know, and that's all we've seen, you know, from him. We know what he's really good at. He's really good at, you know, being on the ball. He can pass. He's someone who can dribble. You know, he can find pockets of space if you do play him further forward. He's all of these things. But it's getting boring now watching him in this midfield, because I'm just like, you to me, you just always look like the weakest player in the midfield. You know, I felt like Szoboszlai and Gravenberch played better than you know, in the game, but I could say that probably about most, if not all, maybe bar one or potentially two games that he's played this season. In terms of the job roles that they're being asked to do, I just feel like he's always the weakest one, you know, kind of thing. If I was a team, he becomes the trigger point straight away. Of course he would. Do you know what I mean? Because he just looks like he is the weakest one, you know, in that kind of regard. So it is what it is. But I will say it was one of his better games, 90% because of on the ball, what he was able to do. But we know what he's good at. That is him in a nutshell. It's a bit like Trent. If Trent's, you know, doing his passing and all these long yards and all that kind of stuff that he always does, then we know, yeah, Trent's sick. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's we will get onto him if we're looking at it, you know, the other way, and then we will hype it up when, you know, players like Trent defend normally, because we're like, oh my goodness, that's not something that we're always used to seeing. So when we do see it, it's got to go up by tenfold in terms of, you know, the rating that we're going to kind of give him. And equally the other way as well, we'll criticize it, but maybe too far in certain instances. But yeah, as I said, with McAllister on the ball, he was really good. I liked him on the ball. It was just defensively again, where I was just a little bit like meh. But you know, it is what it is, and we'll obviously take it from there. Another player. In fact, I'll show you the stats actually real quick, so you can see how much we dominated, you know, in the game. 78% ball possession, 26 shots, 6 shots on target, 9 shots off target. I mean, that ratio is really poor, if I'm being totally honest with you. Can't have 26 shots and your shots on target is 6. You know, that's very bad, if I'm being totally honest with you. But it is what it is. They only had 6 with one on target. Again, really bad from their perspective, but I kind of expect that from them. We do really need to start upping up these on target shots if we're going to be having so many, you know, in games. You know, there were quite a few shots from outside the box and stuff like that. God, you'd think we'd have like 10 Steven Gerrards in midfield, the way that we keep trying to pop it up from outside of the box. I think sometimes maybe be a bit smarter at times. If I'm being totally honest with you, I feel like in these kind of games, especially as well, you know, me personally, when I'm looking at these kind of games against opposition like Everton, you got to be good enough to be able to open them up in some other way other than try and pot shots and, you know, in the way that we did end up winning the game. But ultimately, again, because I know this is what people are going to say, so, you know, just to make sure that everyone understands that I understand, it's only 9 games into a season. We haven't really clicked yet. We're not as good as we should be and all that other good stuff. So again, you know, we'll kind of wait and see, you know, in that regards. I'll quickly show you Gravenberch's stats before I talk about a couple more players. 62 minutes in the game, as I mentioned, I was really impressed with his kind of performance. 31 out of 32 successful passes, 1 chance created, 2 out of 2 dribbles, 7 ball recoveries, 3 interceptions, 6 out of 8 ground duels won. Yeah, like I said, a decent midfield performance, you know, in there. Probably our best midfielder, if I'm being... was he our best midfielder? Yes. In terms of the ones who started, yes. But I do think there is another player who came on and more changed the game. Would I say best midfielder? No. But this one obviously then changed the game when he did come on. And that is obviously Harvey Elliott when he came on, and obviously Darwin Núñez as well. Again, a nice little cameo from both of those players. But before we obviously get into talking about those two players, I just want to talk quickly about this incident right here. Obviously, everyone's had their say. I'm not going to spend 10 years on this, people. Obviously, we know it didn't get given a second yellow. Everton obviously had their man sent off in Ashley Young for 2 yellows. I would definitely agree with that. It was 2 yellows. But this should have been a second yellow for Ibrahima Konate, in my personal opinion. Yeah, when I saw that, I said, yeah, gotta go. He's got to go. And obviously, ultimately, he didn't. Fair enough. If he's not going to go for that, then I can understand why people, the consistency. I think that's just what it really is. Look, it's against my team, so I'm just trying to be fair and objective. He should have gone. For me, it was a blatant yellow card. It wasn't malicious, or it doesn't even have to be. It just has to be a foul, and that was a foul. There was contact there. He should have seen a yellow, and at that time we would have gone down to 10 versus 10. But ultimately, as I said with the Tottenham game, as I said with the Tottenham incident, with that whole VAR stuff and everyone moaning about it, it's done now. It's totally done. Ultimately, so got to just kind of move. Referees are going to make errors. VAR might not always see it that way. It is what it is, kind of thing. But yeah, for me, that was that was so obvious that, it should have been a yellow card for Ibrahima Konate, and he should have been sent off. And to be fair, Klopp knew that as well, because he ended up taking him off literally, give or take, straight after that point. Or he couldn't, Konate had to come off ASAP. It just had to be ASAP, because it was one more, even if them little fouls sometimes that you might just give away but you'd never get a yellow card for, Konate would have gotten a yellow card for that easily, kind of thing. So yeah, Klopp knew it. The whole ground knew it. The Everton knew it. We all sit there watching it. We knew it. Konate should have been sent off. Klopp understood the assignment. He said, "Let me take this guy off now," because he, and I think he mentioned something about that, in his press conference as well after the game, speaking about how lucky, we actually were to not have Konate sent off or something like that. So yeah. I think we know. So we move on. We move on with that. But taking a look, obviously the guy who gets the 2 goals, Mohamed Salah. This has been his record for the start of the season. Brilliant. And it's, what's so crazy about this game? I thought Salah was shit. I thought he was rubbish. I thought he was crap. I genuinely thought he was crap. But this is what I say about these world-class players. Only world-class players do this. Other players have to be performing well to score goals or get assists or stuff like that, because they're not of a world-class ability, so to speak. So to be honest, any one of our attackers, maybe not Jota, because he's a bit of a weird one. That brother will play shit and still score 2 goals. But everyone else, more often than not, they've got to be playing out of their skin more time, and then they'll get themselves a goal or an assist, if not both, kind of thing. And then it kind of enhances the performance, in an overall sense, kind of thing. Take Diaz as an example. I thought Diaz was very average in the game, but it was his, run, obviously then getting the red card kind of thing. Outside of that, I was a bit this is kind of an average performance from Diaz. Nothing too great, if I'm being totally honest with you. I know people get gassed because they see him do this dribble and stuff like that, Yeah, I need a bit more. I need a bit more effectiveness from you. And that's why I say, that moment there, which then got the red card and then the subsequent penalty after that for that first goal, was important. Because outside of that, I didn't really feel like he was that good, to be honest with you. I don't think he was as bad as Salah, but I just don't think he was that good. But Salah was generally bad, though. Salah was, Mykolenko. I think Verge, again, this is what the captain said, not me. Again, I think, was it Verge or someone else mentioned after the game about how well Mykolenko played up against Salah? Tobozola, I think, made reference to, Salah and, in regards to, again, how well Mykolenko played on that side. They knew Salah had a shit game. They knew that Salah was stinking up the gaff. But again, these world-class players, they do it all the time. I've seen it. I've seen it so many times. You guys have seen it as well. We've seen these world-class players. How many times have I watched Benzema doing nothing in the, and I'm talking nothing in the game, looking like, right, Benzema's still playing. Oh, right, she ain't even touched the ball for like 10 minutes. What happens? Benzema to get 2 goals on for a hat-trick out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. Done it so many times. So many times. I've seen him do it so many times, you know, in games where I'm like, this Benzema? Like, what, this guy? Like, everyone's always banging on about, and then poof, bang, bang. World-class players, they just have that in them. They don't have to be sick in order to affect games. Because they're so good at what they do, they don't need to always be good all the time. And that is exactly what Salah is. So I will agree, yes, the performance and everything, 100%, man. We that was really Salah last season, to be honest with you, where I felt like the performances were like that. Exactly what we saw yesterday, bar like a couple. The performances were mostly like that. But when you can constantly get the goals, when you can constantly be important to the team, at the end of the day, he did get the 2 goals for us, you know, in the game without even being one of the better players on the pitch. Again, like I said, man, world-class players, they just got that in their locker, man. That's why I say someone like a Diaz, unfortunately, he's not at that world-class level. But players like him, when they have average games, it's going to be highlighted more because you're not always, maybe every now and again, he might get away with it by getting an early goal potentially. But as an overall, for him, he needs to be performing out of his skin kind of thing to really show it. Otherwise, you just look like it's just quite average. And I felt like he was average. Yesterday, I thought Jota was better. I like Jota dropping into the midfield a little bit, trying to help out in those pockets of spaces, link up play and stuff like that. I felt like he was doing a bit more to affect the game. And again, ultimately, we're coming up against a team who's low blocked, compact. At times, we might just need something a little bit different. And that's kind of where excuse me, we take a look at obviously Harvey Elliott and Darwin Núñez, who obviously came off the bench. Now it's very, very interesting. I felt like both players were really, really good when they came off the bench, especially Harvey Elliott. I felt like he was really, really good. You know, again, coming off that bench, providing energy, providing that enthusiasm, you know, in the midfield, all that kind of stuff. I felt like when it comes to someone like Harvey Elliott and someone like Darwin Núñez, what they're showing me more than anything this season is that more and more, game after game after game after game, they're showing me that, you know what, you're not actually starters in this team. That's one thing you're showing me. We don't play as well when you guys start the games. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think we look that good when Harvey Elliott starts, especially in that midfield area. And I don't think we look that good when Darwin Núñez starts either. You know, I just don't feel like we look I just don't feel like we look good, if I'm being totally honest with you, you know. Not saying we look shit or anything with those guys in, definitely not that at all. I just don't think we look good with those guys when they do start games. What those two are good at is when the teams are in a bit of rhythm, when the team is functioning a little bit, you know, and it's had however many minutes, you know, it's kind of had in the game, you bring those kind of 2 players on. One, you bring Darwin Núñez to stretch the game with his pace. That's really the only real reason that I would be bringing someone like Darwin Núñez on, if obviously the game is still like a 0-0 or it's quite tight and stuff like that. Tired legs. You don't want to be running. I don't want to be running against someone like a Núñez. That's long. I really don't want to be doing that late on in a game, you know, because he's just going to be running those channels on a consistent basis and stuff like that. So definitely not someone that you want to, you know, kind of come up against. And again, same thing with Harvey Elliott. When he comes on in games and the opposition are quite tired, he's coming on with energy, enthusiasm, you know, he's moving the ball a bit quicker, like kind of thing. Whereas before, we might not be moving it quick enough. You again, when you're tired, the opposition at that point in the game, you don't want to be you don't want to be playing up against all of that. It's like, bro, I've been running around for 50, 60 minutes, man. I don't need someone who's zip passing the ball and, you know, making off the ball runs and third man runs here. And then I've got this striker who's, you know, running the channels consistently. At these times I've got a little bit of cramp in my leg. Like it's too much. It's way too much. And that's why I look at those 2 players and I know, again, we get excited. Little cameos here. We're like, oh, this guy's got to start. Sometimes I think some players, at the moment, by the way, this isn't a potential future thing. This is just at this current moment in time. When I'm looking at those 2 players specifically, I am looking at it thinking, you really are better coming off the bench because of the way that you can impact games as opposed to when you guys start games. When you guys start games, I don't feel like we're any better than what we are when you come on, kind of thing. We're almost the exact same kind of thing, you know. But when you guys come off the bench, you do provide us with that kind of different option. And that might be something moving forward. I'm not saying they're not going to start games. Of course, they're going to start games. Nunes probably would start the Toulouse game more than likely, if he hasn't picked up any injuries or anything like that. He came on in this game. He was able to get himself an assist, you know, from Mo Salah. So it's just that for me. And that's how I look at them now is, you know, to be fair, I've never thought they were starters anyway. I don't think they're good enough still. Don't think Nunes is good enough. I don't think Harvey Elliott is good enough to be starters, you know, in this Liverpool team, especially if everybody is ultimately fit. But when I'm looking at it, especially now watching these 9 games in the Premier League, plus the Europa League and Cup games, I'm definitely looking at it thinking, yeah, you guys are definitely bench players, man. But good players to bring off the bench, if I'm being totally honest with you. You know, in Premier League games anyway. Maybe not in every game, but in Premier League games, yeah, I'd rather you guys be on the bench, you know, get warmed up because Nunes, we're going to need you in that last 20, 30 minutes. You know, Harvey Elliott, we're going to need you in that last 20, 30 minutes, you know, and I think that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Ultimately, some players just have to play their role. I think this kind of force that we always try to do with, as soon as a player has a good cameo, we're always trying to force them into the team and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm just like, we don't necessarily always need to do that. If I'm being 100% honest, sometimes it can just genuinely be that certain players just play their role, and sometimes their role might just include them coming off the bench. It could just be one of those, you know, one of those kind of things. But we'll wait and see. But like I said, I think someone like a Nunes probably would start the next game. Harvey Elliott might even start the next game. Who knows? I don't really know. But if I'm looking at Liverpool's best team, it doesn't include those two. And to me, and I think to everybody, but they probably won't admit it, is that they're showing you this with their cameos and how they've been better coming off the bench this season than they have been from starting games. But that's just really food for thought. But ultimately, as I said, look, we got the win. It wasn't pretty. It definitely wasn't anything to write home about, but who cares? Let's just get the victory, get in, get ourselves out, and then obviously we can move on, you know, to the next game, man. To our next game. I think we do have, is it Toulouse that Liverpool have got, you know, in the midweek. So obviously we'll kind of just head into that game. If I quickly just show you, yeah, we've got Toulouse coming up next. If I just quickly show you the league table now. Boom, 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 boom. I just quickly share my screen before I head out here. And yeah, guys, let me know what you think as well. Let me know what you think in regards to the performance of the team. Let's take this off. Boom. Cool. So yeah, obviously you can see here. Maybe if I just enlarge it a little bit. Yeah, we don't need to see anything else. There we go. Points. So yeah, as you can see, obviously Man City still top, Arsenal second, Liverpool in third, Tottenham yet to play their game. I believe it's against Fulham. If they win, they will obviously go back to top of the table. At the time of this video, Aston Villa are beating West Ham 4-1. So yeah, they're only a point behind us as well. Very tight at the top there. Very, very tight. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really no wiggle room. If I'm being totally honest with you, there really isn't any wiggle room. So, you know, no room for mistakes, man. No room for mistakes. So it's going to be quite interesting to see, you know, how the rest of the season. But ultimately, it's 9 games in, people. Let's again, you know, I shouldn't have shown you this anyway, because now it fuels agendas and stuff like that. But look, as I said before at the beginning of the video, there's no one here. Tottenham would be the only team I think are playing well, so to speak, you know. But can I really say that when Manchester City are sitting top of the league, having won 7 games this season, they've lost 2 games, but they've won 7 of those games, you know, scoring 19 goals. Can I really get mad at that? Liverpool, the same thing, you know, won 6 of those games. I know they've obviously drawn 2 and lost 1. Arsenal, you know, again, coming back from that 2-0 down up against Chelsea, you know, can we really, they're unbeaten still alongside Tottenham. So it's difficult. I get it. I guess it's all subjective, but if I just looked at it just in terms of playing football, Tottenham probably be the only ones. Maybe Brighton in there, Newcastle obviously coming back as well. They look like they've kind of got their groove back, you know, under Eddie Howe. So yeah, man, there's a lot in there. And right now, as I mentioned all the time, it is way too early to even be too concerned and even too bothered about these kind of things. You know, we just got to kind of move forward, man, and move on. And then just hope by the time you get to December, we're all still in these kind of positions, if not top of the league for, you know, your own team. But we'll obviously wait and see on that. But guys, let me know what you think. Who was your man of the match? My man of the match I'll give it to Gravenberch. I thought he was Liverpool's better player on the day. Oh, yeah. Maybe just a bit ahead of Virgil. If I'm being honest with you, Virgil was good, by the way. Though he was good, but yeah, I'll probably just give it to like Gravenberch. Let me know, obviously, who you guys would pick as your man of the match. Let me know what you think about the team, the performances, and all that kind of good stuff in the comment section below. I'm G, and that is our match reaction done and dusted, and we are out.